This series is sponsored by the Old School Football Shop.
Old School Football is a UK-based retro football company honouring the rich history of football past by creating high-quality embroidered vintage team crests on t-shirts, polos, hoodies and scarves. Minimalist badges from the 1800s right up to the 1990s.
On the website oldschoolfootball.co.uk, you can find English League and non-league, Scottish football, international teams and even rugby. And what's more, until the end of the lockdown podcast, listeners can get 10% off their whole catalogue plus free UK delivery. Just use the code HONEST10 at checkout for 10% off.
You can follow them on Twitter at OSF Shop, Instagram at Old School Football Shop, TikTok at Old School Football, Facebook at Old School Football Shop, and don't forget, just use HONEST10 at the checkout for 10% off.
Hello and welcome to Coaching Diaries, a series from the Honest Football Podcast. I'm Charlie Betts and I'm a part-time football coach and a PE teacher. As a teacher, I've always been fascinated by the way coaching works in different sports and the impact that can have on me as a football coach. Over the next few weeks, we're going to meet different expert coaches from different parts of the sporting world. We're really going to drill down into their philosophies, values and techniques of their field and find out what makes them so great at their discipline and how it can improve both you and me as coaches and as people. If you like what you hear, then don't forget to like, share and subscribe and comment below on anything that you've drawn from this series that you might want to share with others. To finish our series, we've invited back a guest from a previous show, Ewan Donald. As well as being a massive Falkirk FC fan, Ewan is also a professional actor and, more importantly for this series, a director. Following a successful career as a stage actor, appearing in a range of plays all over the UK and Europe, Ewan can now also be found in the role of a director. This really intrigued me to see how different the role of a coach or a manager in sport measures up against a leadership role in the outside world. Ewan is very honest and frank about his journey, and it really surprised me how similar my role as a coach is with Ewan's job as a director, and in particular the importance of including others in your decision-making process. If you want to keep up to date with what Ewan and his colleagues are doing, you can follow them on Twitter at DundeeRep. And as always, if you want to keep up to date with our content, of which there's quite a lot of at the minute, then you can follow us at Honest Football Free. Thank you so much for watching this series, and we'll speak again soon. Introducing Coaching Diaries with Ewan Donald. And I'm delighted to say that Ewan Donald has joined us now. So, Ewan, you're actually one of our returning guests, but it's great to have you back on.
Lovely to be on again, speaking to you, Charlie. Really nice to chat again.
Yeah, so obviously before we spoke about, we briefly mentioned about your sort of job and what your that entails, but we're going to go into a lot more detail about that in a little bit. But obviously before we had you on and you spoke about your sort of love of football, for anyone who hasn't listened to it, I'll put that in the show notes. But if you want to just give a really brief sort of background really on your sort of favourite football club and all of that, and just how much football means to you, I suppose, really, because you're one of the few people we interview on here in this series who actually loves football, if that makes sense, because a lot of them come from different backgrounds of sport. So,
I come from Falkirk. It's kind of like in between Glasgow and Edinburgh, and grew up a Falkirk fan. And that was kind of my sort of it's going to be my team forever now, because I don't think I'd be allowed to change teams. I wouldn't want to change teams, even though they're in League One. But we were good in the 90s, and we have won a Scottish Cup before, way back in 1957. But I love football. Grew up with it. Tried to be a player. Tried to play it. Was okay. Tried to make it. Didn't. And then decided to do the whole acting thing instead.
No, I think that's amazing. And just really quickly on that football thing, when we spoke before, there was a couple of things that I didn't know about Falkirk. Obviously, that Chris Waddle played for a little while, which I found fascinating. That was honestly, I took away lots from your episode, but that just blew my mind, to be honest, that he'd even made that journey. So I've listened to sort of a few interviews with him since, and I think he went on to play like Sunday League football for a while, but I love the fact he went via Falkirk, really. I think that was fantastic.
Yeah, he only played 4 games for us, but he was just like, it was like watching Pele or something, it was incredible. And we got some photos taken with him, and he used to come up to the local pub, and he was great. He was proper. I think just because he loved playing football, So we've had our kind of moments with some supreme talent that's come through. Other players like sort of Rich Cadet and Tony Parks, goalkeeper. And we've just clung on to them for dear life, like like he played, that thing when it's East Stirling's like Fergie once managed there, and they just use that as a tagline for everything now. So we just like, Chris Waddle played here, even if he was only there for 4 games, but he was, it was great. So we've had some sort of highs, and we're in a bit of a kind of, obviously there's everything going on with the SPFL, with the, other leagues as well. Like, I mean, I think it's Paris Saint-Germain have just been awarded champions, so the SPFL, we're in a bit of a quandary as to what to do. So Falkirk and Wraith were at the top of League One, and they've given Wraith the league. Right. But I think it still means that there's no teams going down. But Dundee United have gone up, Wraith and Cove Rangers.
So just the league winners then, because obviously Forfar were closing in, weren't they? They were quite close.
Yeah.
So sort of, if the season went on, you never know what might happen.
It's actually really confusing, because they've still not sort of come up with. They were talking about extending the league, putting some more teams on, but I don't know. It's quite baffling to read it. You think, what is actually going on here? But obviously, because there's prize money at stake, so they just want to kind of shut the doors and go. Because I read an interesting thing about 43% 43% gate income is pretty much what these clubs rely on. 43% of the whole income is gate income, and they rely on that to keep the club afloat, whereas the Premier League's maybe not. Well, Premier League in this is the Premier League in Scotland as well as the lower tiers, but the Premier League in England is just, it's going to take a hit, but it's going to bounce back because they don't really need gate money.
No, that's the thing, isn't it? Yeah, they reckon, I think it's in the English Premier League, they said about 12 or 13 clubs could just operate the whole season without a single person entering on the ground, because of so much is the sponsorship money and all of that it's just, so it's a world away from clubs like Falkirk, isn't it? In that sense.
Well, that's the thing. Any sponsorship that we're, sponsorship deals, they're looking for their money back from these clubs, and they just can't, so it looks like the Scottish Government are maybe going to have to bail out a lot of these clubs, if they do. Otherwise, they could just go under. They literally could go under, because they just can't keep afloat at all. They're in a precarious position in the first place, and Falkirk's very much at the heart of that as well. So I don't know what's going to. It's quite. It's a shame, but we see clubs going down all the time.
Yeah, that's the thing, and that was before all of this happened. Let alone with the added pressure of all of the current situation of all of that. But yeah, no, I'm sure we could probably do a whole episode on that, to be honest, couldn't we? But
I know, absolutely.
No, but the reason we've got you here is we're obviously taking part in our Coaching Diaries series, which I suppose I could probably change that to Leadership Diaries, because you're here from your background of in the theatre and acting, really, Ewan. So, but I think we've discussed off there. There's so many similarities between that and being a coach, which you're going to explore in a bit. But just sort of tell us, I know about your sort of journey and stuff, but tell us a bit about your journey into acting and that whole sort of environment, really, and sort of what it is you do now, if that makes sense.
Yeah, well, I sort of left school and did sort of some odd jobs, and I was always sort of interested in kind of pursuing some sort of. I was always fascinated to know how the whole kind of acting thing worked, and I went to college, ended up just applying to drama school, but I thought it was really easy to get into. I was like, you just like do a speech and then go and they let you in, but it wasn't like that. So they told me to go away and get life experience. I didn't know really what that meant, life experience, right? So I went, I did a bit of travelling. I thought that'll be life experience. So I went to Australia and South Africa and a few places, and I was like, right, I come back, and I did it again, and they let me in. I thought I must have life experience now.
Always hanging around those beaches in Australia, obviously.
Yeah, I know. The travelling equals life experience. Yeah, because I didn't really know any other way into it. apparently I just heard that you went to drama school, and so I
Right.
went, and I had a great time, and it kind of solidified my kind of belief, or my kind of direction that I wanted to be an actor. And I thought, I think I can do this, and then came out, and I've been working mostly as a freelance actor, all over really, mostly in theatre. I've done the odd bit of TV and stuff like that, but theatre's been my sort of bread and butter, and that's been for the past, God, it's like 16 years now, crazily.
Just really quickly jumping in, which one do you prefer? I know you probably may have done a bit more theatre, but in terms of I know it's probably a bit of it's probably an odd question to ask, but which one would you prefer doing, the theatre or the TV work?
Well, I think, I'd love to do more TV because it's actually far more lucrative,
Yeah.
if I'm being honest, being a bit mercenary there, it is better paid and you get better exposure, and one thing might lead to another if you're any good. And I think it's a different skill set as well. It's I think it's far more pressurized because you don't get much rehearsal time like you do in the theatre. And you hit the ground running there, and I think it's just a different kind of, and they could give you things to learn at the last minute. And so I'd love to do more TV, but it's kind of, I've kind of fallen into this sort of groove of doing theatre, and not that I wouldn't do TV, but it doesn't come as much as I'd like it. But I would like to do more. I guess when you get offered, first and foremost, when I got offered a job, I just kind of took it instead of going, is that good for my career? I just went, I need to work,
Yeah, it's true, actually, yeah.
Earn money, and I guess I've become a wee bit more of a risk taker as I've got older, and kind of went, oh yeah, I'm going to sort of pick and choose what I'd like to do, actually, rather than. But often you won't get the luxury at all. You'll just, because there's so many jobs. So few jobs and so many actors. So it really, so you've kind of got to take it when it's there. But so that's my kind of theatre's a sort of my bread and butter, and I know I think I know what I'm doing with it now.
Yeah, no, it sounds, in terms of that, obviously, through speaking to you off sort of air, and as a friend of yours, I know that it's not just the acting that you're doing now. You sort of branched out into more of that leadership sort of what we would call leadership, but I suppose in your profession, directing. But I imagine there's many different facets to that. So is that something when you first went into, if you go back to when you first went into drama school, did you always have that ambition of maybe being the other side of the fence as well? Or was that just sort of something that you stumbled across, if that makes, not to put it as mildly as that, but you know what I mean?
Yeah. I think it grew, I think it grew over the years. I think it really essentially going from a lot of people do, go from actor to director. And I think it's to do time. More control. You don't feel you've got a huge amount of control with your career because you're like, stand there, do that kind of thing. And I think a lot of the time it's born out of bad experiences. Like, I could do that. Like, not. It might sound arrogant or anything, but a lot of the time there's complete and utter kind of disaster zones of directors. They're just no idea what they're doing, and lacked. Since this podcast is about, we're talking about leadership in various realms. Just no leadership, no skills to harness the group or the ensemble. And I think what I had underneath me, as I've went through the years, is I've done lots and lots of plays in lots of places with lots of different people, and I think to get confidence you need experience, and it's often hard to get experience as an actor because jobs are few and far between. But I've managed to do a lot of plays over the years and worked with some really good people, but also worked with some really bad directors, leaders, apparently I'll use that in quotation marks. And I just got fed up after a while and started going, I want to try this, because I wasn't enjoying being an actor anymore. I just was like, I was just getting depressed and going, what is this? This is bullshit, So that was my sort of aim, but it was a lot harder than I thought, in terms of trying to go, I'm a director now, because you get people scoffing at you going, oh really, oh yeah, what have you done, like, so you've got to get someone sort of, you've got to get a bit of help and get a foot in the door.
I mean, if you don't mind me sort of asking, how does that pathway work? Because obviously, I mean, in terms of football, you'd maybe be a player, possibly then go into coaching, maybe an assistant manager, and then eventually a manager or something. That's a familiar pathway. Is there something similar in terms of your industry, or do you literally go from acting to directing, or is there like a bit more of an assistant role? Do you know what I mean? Sort of getting at in that sense.
Yeah. That's a really good question. I think it depends on the contacts you have, how determined you have. There is an absolutely assistant role, but that's not clear what that is. That gets defined by the director usually,
Right.
and oftentimes you're just sitting there doing nothing, or they'll give you tasks like scheduling, or they might give you. It just depends. They might give you a lot of stuff to do. They might get you to work with actors, but a lot of the time you're just sitting there observing. I've done that, and that can be just as useful, just shutting up and sitting there and just watching. Oftentimes, watching good bits, but also thinking, how would I do this? Definitely wouldn't do that. So often just shutting up and listening. So getting experience in that assistant role, I think, can be quite arduous and quite boring, to be honest, because you just want to get stuck in. But often you could just sit there and pick up some good tips. So I think it's the road to a director. I think you can. It's trying to establish yourself as that. If and can go, this is my path now. This is what I'm going to do, and about people just willing to take that risk with you as well, which is that's the hard bit. Trying to kind of sell your idea or sell the fact that you're a good director. Because at the end of the day, there's just everybody's kind of winging it a little bit, and you can, and there's there's bullshitters, and then there's people with a bit more integrity,
I think you've touched on some, we'll go into a bit more detail on some of them later on, but I think you touched on some amazing points that are so similar to being involved in sport, whether it's, from my background in football or speaking to other coaches, just the whole thing about when to listen, when to talk, that observing and all of that. But we'll go into a little bit more detail on that in a second. Just a couple of tiny quick-fire questions. Have you ever acted and directed the same play or production before?
Do you know what? This is the one, because I had I think about this. That for me is there's two things there for me that I don't know how that could work for an actor director, because you can't see what you're doing if you're inside it. Do you know what I mean? You can't.
Yeah.
You need an outside eye, and I think I've seen it done lots of times. There's a few reasons it usually saves money, because
I suppose, that makes sense. Yeah.
Or it's a vanity project, and they went, I'd be good at this part, so I'm directing it and I'm doing it, but you can't be objective, and you can't see the full picture. So I think I don't like it, to be honest, because and the same. I see some people doing it, and some people are really good at it, and you think, well, but I think that's few and far between. And I really, sorry, what was I going to say? One of the things that I was asked when I was asked to direct the show, and they asked me if I wanted to be in it as well, and I just automatically says no. And they went, right, because we kind of really need to win. No, I can't do that. I wouldn't see any enjoyment in it, No. But I know a lot of people do it for financial reasons, and because there's not a lot of money in the theatre, so I can understand that. But it wouldn't be my. You're kind of directing from the inside,
Yeah, because if I'm honest with you, just really quickly before you sort of carry on, I think the financial thing is almost saying, maybe not so much nowadays, but I don't know if you remember in the 90s, particularly in football, there seemed to be this spate of player managers that just appeared, really. And, I've always wanted to speak to someone who's involved in, managing and playing at the same time. But I'm, from what you just said, maybe that's why there's not any more of it now. But because I think what you're just saying is it's identical, isn't it? Of being in the middle of something, but then also, being able to objectively look at it. It must be so tough, to do that. And that's same in playing as well, I suppose.
I just always, the first person that springs to mind is Graham Souness for Rangers when he went to Rangers, and I was like, how is he able to do that? Obviously, he had like Walter Smith at the helm, but I think that says a lot for him because he's a bit of a control freak anyway, So
I just think you've got to be for that in that situation. You'd have to make sure your performance, whether it's in football or in your industry, has to be spot on every single time. Whether it's a rehearsal or training, or again, I don't think you can afford to have an off day because if you do, I suppose you're just leaving yourself there to be shot at, then, aren't you? Metaphorically, So I think it's and maybe lose the trust of your colleagues, aren't you? I suppose.
Yeah, it didn't work well for him, Graham. Since he got sent off in his first game as player manager, So.
It's true, but I do think the financial things, though, if you look maybe in the 90s, particularly, a lot of the player managers were in the lower leagues and lower down the pyramid. For that reason, I suppose it's hard to balance that up.
It's a necessity, yeah.
But sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Sorry, but you.
It's all right. It's totally fine, yeah.
But I think that's a fascinating. There's a whole. I think you could do a whole sort of chat on that, couldn't you? That whole thing of being actively involved in something and then also trying to orchestrate it. It's just. It's such a tough thing, but
very difficult.
What we'll do, Ewan, is we'll move on to the sort of the reason you're actually here. We should talk about more of the sort of coaching and leadership sort of stuff from your line of work, really. So we sort of touched on it a little bit about why you wanted to go into this directing sort of world of directing and the whole leadership that comes with that. But just the thing I wanted to talk to you personally about, sort of to kick it off with, really, was how does your mindset change? Because I can only relate it to football, but I suppose as a player, you only really have to think about where you need to be at a certain time, whether that's on the pitch or off of it, or, you only really have to think about yourself. Although you're part of a team, I suppose your priority is that. But then when you go the other side of the fence and become a director or a manager or a coach, I suppose you have to worry then about, 25, 30, depending on how many you play, a lot more than that, So how does your mindset change in that sense?
That's a really good question. I think it really depends on whatever I brought to the rehearsal room as an actor. I kind of had a kind of a basic understanding of turn up in time, know your lines, just be a good kind of member of the company. Make sure you treat people well and stuff like that. So and make sure that kind of translates to when the director, because I think the director sets the bar straight away. Things like keep whenever you're having a breaks, like tea breaks. Tea breaks are a massive thing for actors, and they're always kind of there, like
oh really?
Because we've got like a union. They've had to fight for like tea breaks and things like that. So there are tea breaks, so you do not ever deprive actors of tea breaks, or they'll have your head. But in terms of sort of values that the basics being the fundamentals, like punctuality, hard work, and keep the focus in the room. Make sure they learn their lines. I think also know when to call it a day, really, because you could do a 10 till 6 rehearsal, and by 4 o'clock everyone's just like, you can see them, the shutters have come down, and they're like, and learn to read the room, I think, and think like okay, I tell you what, here's a compromise. Why don't we do the next scene and then let's just go home? And they'll love you for that. They'll totally love you for that. I think it's, but also I think it's trying to really read the characters in the room and about where their strengths are, where they kind of seem less sure. Keep an eye on the quieter ones, because everyone's got a different way of working, and you can't just shout across to everyone. I think a lot of people need a kind of more one-to-one approach. Like definitely, that's all definite in coaching. I remember you speaking about that, and enable the actors to input. And I think one of the big questions that I always ask was, how does it, if you try something, how does it feel? Because they love talking about how everything feels, because they're up on their feet and they're moving and it's kinesthetic, and how does it feel? And keep open questions, but at the same time trust you can get swamped by actors with their own ideas, and you've got to just, instead of like brick walling them, stonewalling them, you can just go, let's try it. And if it doesn't work, go, okay, well, but I think at the end of the day, I've got to make the decisions.
Yeah.
However unpopular they might seem, I've got a sort of, if you like, a vision. But as long as the actors feel enabled to make, take risks and make their own choices, and then I try and facilitate that and harness their skills, especially with young actors. It's kind of like, because there's a huge amount of like technical proficiency in being in the theatre. You've got to be heard. There's rhythm to the text. There's so many elements to it.
Yeah.
So I guess it's trying to lead by example. If I turned up late, then what's that say about me? Do you know? So I'm always there, first in, last out, know the text, and just and keep it light as well, and keep it fun, and because you think, God, a lot of the actors you'll see will be like leaving this room, finishing the job, and then they won't have another job. So it's like, make it a good experience for them.
That's true, actually. Yeah, I mean, you've touched on some amazing points there. We'll go into sort of all of them a bit more. But just, I'm throwing a question at you here. Sorry that I hadn't sort of prearranged with you. But one thing that's always fascinated me when I've spoken to people from different sports, as well, is that first day, and particularly in a leadership position, sort of what's going through your mind when, so you've been booked to direct this particular production. That very first day when I don't know whether you have I don't know how it works, whether you have a team meeting first or whatever, but what's going through your mind personally as you sort of, do you have to be so mentally resilient that no matter what you think, you have to back yourself basically, or are you very nervous, very sort of not timid, but do you know what I'm getting at? Sort of, what is that mindset on that very first day? Sorry, I didn't really pre-warn you of that one.
No, that's fine. I think a mixture of both, Charlie, to be honest. There's trepidation, there's nerves, there's, are they going to not buy into it, but are they going to kind of, I hope they kind of trust me. Along the same lines as you would in the first day reading of as an actor as well, but the great thing is you get just to hear everyone. And I think the main thing for me was tell them not what you expect from them, but tell them what you want to do with the play and what you think and why you're doing the play, and why you think it's a good idea to do this play, and what it's about, and what you hope to achieve. I think if you can give them and this is day one, set your stall at day one for your plan, and that plan might change a little, but get them excited about doing the job, and coming up, not like, oh, right, look, this is a shit play, and we'll probably have a miserable time, So I think, even if deep down you're like a duck and you're paddling underneath frantically, like on top, you're like, got to try and stay calm and feel like you're in control, and say, oh, today, so for this week. And actors also love to know what their schedule is. They don't want some kind of like open-end schedule where they think, oh, we'll be working. I'll say, look, we're not working these first 2 weekends because they've got lives and they're married and they've got kids. And I think give them a schedule, give them what's going to be. And I know from experience as an actor, you love that because you think, oh, I can make a plan, because and then I can learn my lines on this night and I can do that. Like, if you've not got a plan, automatically, I think the actors feel like, does this person know what they're doing? I think even if you give that impression, what you're doing, you say, look, and the big thing that I have to touch on is usually you've got a stage manager next to you, which would be in football, obviously assistant manager. And stage managers are absolute gold dust because they can help you with the scheduling. They can help you with problems, because really you've not got a lot of time. You're usually up against the clock, say you get 3 weeks. That's not a lot of time to rehearse a play. It might seem like a lot of time, but you've got to get it to where you want. And if there's music in it, if there's dancing, you've got to get someone in to choreograph it. And there's lots of elements, and you've got to keep on budget. You've got that, and you've got all these people knocking on your door going, what about this? What? And everyone wants to ask you questions. So it's trying to stay calm and have some kind of plan in place.
Yeah, I think I think you've touched on a brilliant point there, because I think even in sport, it's quite obvious to a performer or a player or whatever, if you haven't got a plan. I think you can try and blag it, but I think it's obvious to them. And the moment that crack appears, then I think it's very difficult to, if you just go in and look like you're winging it, you know, which does happen occasionally, but it seems to be quite a frequent thing, doesn't it? Then it becomes a bit more, you know, that's, I think, when the cracks start to appear. Like you were saying earlier, maybe about some of the people you worked with who weren't particularly the greatest to work with. I found from my sort of time in sport that quite often it was those people who just sort of, it was all ad hoc, a bit hashed together sort of thing, really, wasn't it? And that's what you're saying, not having that plan, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And you can smell that, see it a mile away, and you know, you just go. And then in the past, I would just automatically try and take over, you know, good or bad. I'd be like, because at the end of the day, like, you're the one, the actors are the one getting on stage and doing it. The directors in the background, you know, kind
I
of.
suppose as the actor, your reputation's probably on the line, isn't it? It depends on how this sort of goes in some ways. Not your reputation, your next job, I suppose, could potentially be on the line. You know, so I suppose it's in your interest, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely, and so I think, and to be honest with you, I think it's that get feedback on, you know, you can ask them at the end of the day, you know, how's any thoughts, concerns, worries, how does everyone feel? Do you know, 9 times out of 10 they go, do you know what, you know, guaranteed they'll go away in a corner, a few of them, and go, do you know what, I'm not, and it feels sometimes like it's a mutiny or something, and you think, what are they talking about? Because I've been on that side, you know. And often it's not, it's them just worried about a scene or something. So I think it's good to be open and not to be precious about things, and kind of go, because you don't want a lot of unhappy people in the room going like, we don't want to tell them this is shit, but it is. So so I think it's, instead of them coming to you like some sort of intervention, like, allow them to open up by asking the question, you know, how does it feel? How does everyone feel? And if anyone's got any problems, then you sort it there. And I always ask about, be specific, instead of sort of, oh yeah, we're just really unhappy. It's like, what about though? What is specifically is the problem? And then you get to the kind of root of it.
Yeah, I think that's a fascinating insight. Actually, I hadn't sort of thought of it that way. I suppose in a lot of the onus then on the questioning comes from you, doesn't it? Really, because
yes,
depending on what their sort of personality is like, you know, some people maybe are just sort of, like you say, it's just happy or sad, isn't it? In that sense, and you need a bit more than that. I think, you know, that getting that buy-in, and I suppose actually they feel like they're contributing then, don't they? And maybe that keeps them on side. If maybe as a performer or a player, you feel like you've had a sort of part to play in the development of, you know, the performance or the result or whatever it is, you know.
I think that's absolutely essential, Charlie, because they've got to own the show. They've got to believe that it's theirs, and they've got to get up there and be confident with it and go, I believe in this and I believe what we're doing. And you've got to make sure, well, as a director, feed that it feels like it's all coming from them. They're not some dictator going in and going, stand there, shut up and do it. That just doesn't work, you know. And I think, and go out there and have some fun with it, you know, but let's do the hard work now. The hard work is the rehearsal, and then the performance is more like the relaxation. I mean that in a way. It's just, it should feel like you've done the hard work and you're just putting this in place now. And I think, and it should feel like to the audience that it's like, you know, that it's effortless in a way. It's like, wow, you know, but it's not. But there's been loads of hard work put into place, but it should feel like going, wow, that was brilliant. You got to make it, and you got to make it a good experience for them. They're paying like good money to come and see something, and that's always in the front of my mind, the audience, and giving them a good experience, because it can't, you know, it's got to be for them. That's always got to be your target.
That's a really good point, because I think actually, reflecting on it now, I think it is quite obvious to an audience member or a fan if someone's doing their job but not necessarily enjoying it, and whether that be through football or, you know, someone could learn the lines and deliver them, but, you know, you can probably tell, even as a layman like myself, you can probably tell if someone was enjoying what they were doing or not. And I suppose it's the same with football. You can see some people who sort of make those runs or, you know, do whatever, but it's not really, you can tell they're not really bought into it, can't you, almost, in that sense?
yeah, you see players and they're kind of like, why is he jogging? Why is he
Yeah.
jogging around the patch? He should be sprinting to close people down. That's it's the same with a lot of you see actors, and you think, what? Come on, you need to step up here and just and then you need to find out why they're doing that, and because people have got their own things going on in life, and but then being a director as well, you become something else as well. You could become a confidant. You become like a shoulder to cry on or whatever, and it's dealing with all that stuff as well because you're dealing with human beings at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think it's quite easy to forget that, and like you say, that sort of dictatorship. It almost feels like something that, and this is no disparaging comments to anyone from that era, but it's something you probably would have expected maybe 30, 40, 50 years ago, in sport and maybe even, in acting of, it was a lot more acceptable in football, for example, to have a coach in the 60s or 70s who just shouted, barked orders, made everyone feel like crap. And I suppose you did everything out of fear rather than wanting to do it and enjoy it. And I think that maybe society's changed that, I don't know. But I imagine it's sort of maybe even similar to a point in your industry that maybe people in the olden days, inverted commas, did stuff more out of fear than what they did actually almost enjoying it. I don't know. Those sort of, you hear the stories of those really sort of draconian directors, don't you, and things like that. So
absolutely, and who would say things like, the best bit about being an actor is the drink after the show. It's like, that's like, like the old school kind of, and like throwing chairs at you and things like that, and like you're drinking and smoking in the rehearsal room and stuff, and I saw that as well, and I think people can look back on that with kind of fondness, but a lot of the time you just didn't get anything done, and I think there was a lot of talented people amongst it, but I always thought, like, if it was like this when they were drinking and messing around, what would it been like if there was none of that going on? It would have been amazing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I guess that's just it's of its time, and I kind of glad it's kind of moved on, and there's still, I think there's still a big boozy culture and stuff, but it's and there's but it's more of a safer space, I think, now for actors to come in, because there's not as much, because there is that a lot of bullying went on, a lot of kind of people throwing things, slamming doors and all that, and thankfully that doesn't go on as much. I'm sure it still goes on in some places, but thankfully it's less so.
It's a lot more frowned upon, isn't it? But just going to sort of move on a little bit, Ewan. So I think we've sort of spoken about your values, and maybe even, I think we've sort of almost gone on a bit of a journey, haven't we, of maybe what it was like when you started to now. But the sort of, the thing I wanted to get into is a bit more of the technical side of it, particularly from a coaching perspective, because I think this is fascinating because, in football coaching, for example, I try and make certain elements of the session rehearsed. So then those, like set pieces, for example, when you come to a game, it's sort of learned, everyone knows where they're sort of going in that regard. Obviously, in your industry, you can't afford, well, I suppose there are things like ad-libbing and things like that, isn't there? But within reason, I suppose, it's a bit more structured than playing a football match. But what I sort of wanted to talk to you about was, how do you as a director know, I mean, I say rehearsal, I suppose I'm treating rehearsal the same as a coaching session, and maybe the match as the performance, but how do you know when you've had a good sort of session, when you've had a good rehearsal? What are you getting back from the sort of the players, not players, sorry, from the performers in that? How do you know you sort of had a good session with them? I suppose is what I'm asking.
Yeah. I think if you have done that thing, as I mentioned on day one, where this is what I'm going to do. I think I end up using that as a thing that we do every day. Tell them exactly what we're going to achieve today, and give them an incentive. Usually give them incentive of, if we do that, we can go home.
No, but I suppose that is a genuine sort of
I think it is, especially if it's a nice sunny day and you're like going, oh God, do we have to be in here, and even though they're probably not, they won't say that out loud, but they're thinking it. But I think, say, look, today I want to get through this, and this, and it could mean that it's like, oh God, that's quite a lot. But I think for me, that a good day is solving problems and tackling, fixing bits that weren't, because you can easily put them in the back burner to the last minute and go, do you know what, or dealing with some tension between actors, or I was mad for just writing lots of lists of things I needed to do tomorrow, even though deep down, if I was actually quite scared, because there's a lot of big personalities in the room. Things can pop up during the day, because it isn't just the actors in the room that can can upturn your schedule. It can be like the designer, the lighting designer, people that are sick, people.
Yeah.
So have a schedule, but be prepared to kind of work out with that as well. But I think the thing that I was always slightly anxious about was not having enough time.
Yeah, that's true.
But at the same time, not putting that problem onto the actors, thinking, no, how can we, how can we make up some time? But not. But as I said before, when it comes, if they're all flagging at 4 o'clock, it's counterproductive. If there's no point in absolutely stretching them until breaking point. There's no point in that, because it's just completely counterproductive. So, yeah, I guess again, just asking them at the end of the day if everything's okay, and keeping things nice and tight and swift, and not allowing too much, because not allowing a lot of an awful lot of chit chat can go on with actors dissecting things and philosophizing over things. And I think I've always tried to just get up on its feet and just do it, and let's just you want to solve some problems, but do it on its feet, not sit around the table for too long, because you just get more and more anxious. So a good day for me would be getting through the text, getting through the piece, and getting up on its feet and getting a shape for it, and getting somewhere where you feel like I can see how this is coming along, really.
Yeah, no, I think you've spoke about something really, really important there, actually, because I know I mentioned at the beginning about the fact that maybe football is obviously less scripted, excuse the pun, than working in the theatre. But actually, the similarities there, like you're saying, that it's okay to have problems. And I think maybe, I don't know what you felt like when you in the early stages of your career, whether it be as an actor or directing, but and I know for me as the early stages of coaching, actually problems felt like, oh no, this means the whole thing's going to be derailed, and you almost take a lot of that on yourself, don't you? And actually, players and actors like problems to solve. It's some of them thrive in that situation, don't they? And I think it's only it's something that I'm really trying to develop myself, is actually to be okay that maybe some things aren't quite running as smoothly. I mean, I agree with what you're saying about having a tight schedule and having that plan to work from, but if there are problems, it's not the end of the world. And actually, some people develop and grow. I feel like some sessions that I've come away from as a coach that I thought were horrendous, maybe the fruits of that on the Saturday when they play, were the progress they made was much more than maybe what it was sometimes than those sort of slicker, gleamy looking sort of sessions. And I don't know if I think that's sort of from what you were saying, it's okay to have problems, isn't it, really?
I think so. And I think it just made me think of something there, Charlie, which is really important, that like you said, if it's not just because I haven't, if I have a plan and it gets slightly derailed by something or other, usually if it is something, it's a better idea than the one that I had. So don't be precious about your own ideas. If something better comes up, don't hold on to it, and it will usually be like the actors that come, like you were saying about someone that, a lot of them that thrive on the problem solving, and like a director's even, I think it's to facilitate the actors really, and also have have an overall vision. But a lot of the time you can put if you have got some problems, put it out to them and see if they can solve it as a group, 9 times out of 10 that you'll get something back that's just brilliant. And that's what don't be precious, don't have an ego about it, don't try and kind of solve every problem. And I think that was a real learning curve for me, because I thought I had to have all the answers, and you don't. Because I think they will own it even more if it's come from them, because they're like, oh, that's and just put it out to the group, the group, but it's a fine line, because you don't want them to take over.
No, that's the thing, isn't it? Because you're making yourself vulnerable a bit, aren't you, by doing that? I suppose you are maybe, and not just in terms of your job, but even emotionally a little bit. Like you say, you're almost handing over that I don't know everything, and I suppose there is a vulnerability to that, isn't there?
Yeah, I think it's the way you do it, I think, as well. I think this is quite hard to explain, but if someone says, you tried something, what do you think and you're like, let's try something else. Let's not just like, I don't know. That I don't know is like in the kind of theatre rehearsal room. It's kind of okay to say it, but if you say it in a sort of defeated, like, I don't care, I don't, oh God, it's okay to go, I tell you what, why don't we leave that for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and come back to it? It's about trying to solve it together, but not allowing your role to be undermined, so you just start taking over. I think it's about being present, and because often the time you'll sit behind I'm not a fan of like sitting behind a desk when I do it. I just like to just stand up and be like moving about, like it made me laugh because I was actually, when I was doing the last show, it was a guy that I went to college with. I got him in, a good friend of mine. I thought he'd be perfect in the part, and I got him in, and it was having one of those afternoons. It was my head was a bit fried, and I just wanted him to kind of move further down the stage, and instead of just going, just move down stage, Ross. Like, I just kept pointing to him like some irate football manager, like pointing, and I just went over and moved him. Literally moved him. I just moved him myself. And I thought he was going to headbutt me.
It's hard,
and he was
though,
like,
isn't it?
What are you doing? And he just goes, just move to there.
It is hard, though, I think, when you're in that position, isn't it? Not to lose your rag, almost, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. I think it is. It's about constantly checking in with yourself and going, oh God, I just need like air,
Yeah, I think you've made an amazing point there about the whole being precious thing. That's something I hadn't considered that before in that way. That I love that, and that's definitely something I'll take forward from this. Is that it doesn't have to be your way, does it? I suppose that preciousness about that, and like you say, but then there's other times, like you say, you get to the other end of the spectrum where you just need to physically pick up and move someone, and it's that balance, isn't it? It is hard. It's not easy.
Yeah, and it's also, it depends on the person you're doing that with. Like, if I'd done it to some of the older actors, it's being brave, but not being stupid.
I think that, do you know what? If there was ever a tagline for this series, I think it's that. To be honest, I love that.
I know. I'd be like, I would be away having a cut. And do you know? I think the other thing actually was I tried to give them their space and not be there. I would have my break separate from them. I wouldn't socialise because I want them to kind of, if they want to go to the pub and talk about it, I don't want to be there because they need that outlet. I think they need to do that. Yeah. They need to go, and I'm all going, oh, what do you think today? It was great, guys. Like in the pub, out of that context of a rehearsal, a working space. I don't want that to happen. I want it to be work, and that's it. And often that can spill over, and I just really, I set that out as one of my own guidelines, to be honest, that I was going to keep myself apart from it.
No, I completely get that. No, I think because it's hard being the other side of the fence, isn't it? And you need to keep that respect of them, like you say. And and also, I suppose it maybe feels to them. I've felt as a player, if the manager sort of came out a bit like Big Brother's sort of watching you as well, isn't it? In that sense, and you can't let your hair down, I suppose. But I'm trying to move on here. I know you've sort of touched on it a bit, but I'm basically trying to put together a little book. This is literally for my own sort of development, because out of all the things in coaching, the bit I struggle with the most is negativity. I just can't cope with it. I can't be around it when I'm coaching or that kind of thing. So I'm trying to pull sort of strategies from everyone that I've spoken to. I know you sort of touched on it in different ways, but if you were to sort of maybe summarise it, how do you sort of handle, and it could have been when you were acting even as a sort of colleague of yours, but how do you cope with someone maybe reacting negatively to your sort of direction or your leadership? What sort of strategies do you use for that, really? Because I need as many as I can get if I'm
Well, I think I touched on it before about I always try and be really specific about what the problem is. Because I worked with a writer and we were sort of friends. Yeah, we were friends. I'm saying this now. But we clashed so much, and we had full-on arguments in the rehearsal room in front of the other actors, and I was like, I just couldn't keep a hold of my I just couldn't control what I was feeling. I let loose. I was kind of like, I called him out. Everything that you don't want to do, really. And we had to sit down and kind of talk it through. I was like, this isn't good. It's not good for us. It's not good for anyone else. It's like, I think we need to try and give each other a wee bit more respect here. You know, you need to. I think we need to have a wee chat in the morning about what, because, you know, it's different for each kind of piece. You know, what your relationship is with the writer. If the writer's long gone, like someone like Shakespeare, then that's fine because you've only got, you know, the text. That's it. But if it's a new piece of writing and he's in the room or she's in the room, and I think, you know, they have an idea about what they want as a writer and what they envisaged, and I didn't deal with that very well at all to begin with, because it became quite confrontational, and I just had to. I came home and sort of had to think about it and think about how am I going to deal with this, and so I started sort of trying to pinpoint exactly what it was. Instead of jumping and being really defensive, which was my first sort of thought and feeling, I just was like, what's the problem? What specifically is it? Trying to get down to the actual detail about why the why there was an issue, and as well to, if it works, do one-on-one, not to embarrass them and say something petty or to get personal. I was getting personal with them, and once we brought that into it, then the game was over, kind of thing. It was just, it wasn't, you know. And I tried to offer alternatives if I didn't necessarily agree. Okay, and usually the bottom line would always, if we had time, I would always try something, you know. If someone was unhappy about something, and it could be, I'm speaking specifically for something within a show.
Yeah.
It could be the fact that it could be a number of things. But if it could be like, oh, I don't like this part of this, and you know, I don't like the way you're doing it. You know, you can get some troublemakers in there, you know, and so it's identifying if it's a genuine problem or if it's just attention seeking.
Yeah.
So usually you can iron that out and focus on that just by having a one-to-one with them, and so because then you know, sometimes they're just at it, you know, and you think he's just doing this to wind me up.
Yeah.
So it's try not to fly off the handle, keep calm, and to be honest, talk to your stage manager, talk to the stage management. Oh, you know, they'll, you know, intense moments, you can just call a tea break. And check in with people all the time, because you don't know, you know, I think you just don't know what they're going through as well. And so in terms of negativity, I think it's just trying to listen to people and what they're saying, and if they don't want to talk about it, find a quieter time. You know, find a new space to speak to them and ask what's going on, because, and I had that. I had a girl in my production that her dad was ill, and I was really I was pushing her in a way in a workplace. I was kind of, in a way, I wanted to get somewhere with this bit, and she just broke down, and I was like, oh my God, I've done this. And we just went off to the other room. We sat for 20 minutes. We just had a chat, and then we were supposed to work the weekend, and I decided, I was like, just go home, see your dad. That's more important.
Yeah.
You know, just be it's human beings, they're not machines, you know what I mean? And and even if you've lost some time there because you've sent her home, you can make it back up. You can just make it up, because it's actually pays dividends in the end, in the long run, because she's actually going, oh, that's good, I feel better for that, you know. And you've got someone who's going to come back to work a little bit more at ease with herself.
Yeah, I suppose you need to, the relationship you have with them has to be paramount, doesn't it? You know, the performers, you know, and I think it's hard, I think, especially if they challenge you publicly. Like you said, I think what you said is fantastic, particularly the maybe pulling to one side and that sort of one-to-one experience. But sometimes if you're challenged publicly, it's very hard to not get into that tit for tat. And that's something I fall foul of, you know, like to not then try and retort back in that public environment. But
I just fall into like a sort of Falkirk Gadget, you know, from I'm like, what do you say to me? What do you say to me? You know, like it just is like I'm 16 and someone's starting me on the playground. You know, I just go back to that and I think I can't do that. You know.
No, no.
But I think that's in us all, isn't it? It's just a sort of defense mechanism, you know. And then you think, all right, okay, I should have moved on from there, really.
Yeah, it's not easy though. You sort of always go back to what you know, really, don't you, in that sense? But
yeah.
I just want to move on. So I've got sort of 4 questions left. 3 you know about. So there, I've been reflecting about my practice. So it's sort of maybe a bit of time to get a bit more reflection from you. So just sort of being a bit more of a quick fire sort of style. If I was to say to you, what is your biggest strength as a leader, but in your case a director, what would you say is your biggest strength?
Oh,
It sounds like you're going for a job interview. I do apologise. I don't mean like that.
Yeah, well, I think preparation, to be honest.
Yeah.
I'm pretty fastidious when it comes to, you know, just making sure I've done, even as an actor, but I learned that as an actor, you know, you try and find out as much as you can about a part, about a play, about who you're working with as well, about maybe how they work, and just try and do as much groundwork if you can, which is often hard, you know, because you sometimes you know, you haven't got the time and other things are going on in your life.
Yeah.
I mean, to be honest with you, I like to keep things, I know it probably doesn't sound like that after having the chat. I really like to keep things nice and fun and light.
Yeah.
In the rehearsal room.
I would definitely pick that from you, definitely. You know,
yeah,
just
to do the work. But I try to have a laugh. I try to because things can get really heavy really quickly, and people can get really tense quickly. And you know, I'll bring biscuits in. I'll bring, you know, and they'll love you for that as well. Just little tricks like that.
Yeah, I don't think people realise the power of biscuits and stuff like that. You know, but it's the sentiment, isn't it, that comes with it. It's,
bring it. Yeah, make sure you've got plenty of milk, plenty of biscuits, tea bags. You know, and people will be like, "Oh, this is great," and give them the weekend off. I think I would, more specifically, I'd like to think I've got pretty decent interpersonal skills as well, just sort of like, because I think that's just seeing how badly that's gone on beforehand in a rehearsal room. I've like made a vow, if I was going to do that checking in with people, making sure they're all right, making sure like, and when it comes to work, to keep it, I know I keep saying this again, but keep it specific, keep it interesting. Don't be precious. And I think I'm not. I'll give it over to the actors. Let them have a go at it, because they will solve problems. And I think I found that right balance. I've only done, you know, I've not done a huge amount of directing, but what I've done is I've learned each time that you know, you've got to think about the audience as well, and what, you know, you can't sort of second guess them, but at the same time you go, will they enjoy it? Are they going to have a good time? But at the same time, trust your own instinct as well. Trust that the skills that I've garnered are going to be kind of right, you know. And I think be brave. So sorry, that's a lot of things there. But
no, it's right. No. I think it's really. I think I would agree with that on a personal level. I think I'd agree with a lot of what you said, you know, about you as a person. I think that's a sort of quality that some people have to work hard at, and people like yourself sort of don't. But not to take that away from you. But I think people underestimate the value of making stuff fun and things. You know, the specific side of it, I think, is fantastic. You know, because quite often, even coaches that I've played for, sometimes you're sort of doing a session and you can see that everyone's sort of doing stuff, but you're not really too sure why you're doing it, or you know, the context around it. I mean, I suppose context is a bit easier in what you're in your life. Well, maybe it isn't. I don't know. I'm speaking on behalf of you there. Why you're working on a particular scene or something like that, you know, but why you're sort of doing it maybe in that order or whatever.
Yeah, I think you're right, because what I always hear in football terms is like people, footballers who know their jobs on the field, and I kind of like that, you know, like when I know what I'm supposed to do, you know, okay, there's stuff that will happen, but it's trying to get actors to do the same as well, like know what you're supposed to do. There's nothing worse than seeing an actor flailing around and they don't know what they're doing, and that's the director's fault. You know, maybe they've not got confidence to just kind of go, do you know what, I'm just going to do this, you know. Like I've been in rooms before when I've literally not had any direction, none. And I've just got to sort of somehow maneuver my own way through a show, a rehearsal, then a show, and I go, they've not spoken to me once. And the reason I don't even ask them for any direction, because I know there's no point, because I don't respect them, so I just go. So it's basically self-preservation, but a lot of actors maybe won't do that, and they'll just be flailing about and they don't know what they're doing, and then they'll get picked out in a review, and they'll get torn apart, and that'll destroy their confidence. So it's got a knock-on effect, so I think you've really got to be specific with them about what they're doing, and how they're moving around the stage, how they're carrying themselves, and technically there's a big job to be done there as well. So I think I'm really aware of that, especially with younger actors.
Yeah, I'm gonna flip it on you now, Ewan. And I know this is a bit of a challenging question, but from your own perspective, what would you say is maybe your weakness? And you don't have to be too specific, or what is maybe an area you would like to develop? Maybe that's a polite way of putting it. As someone in that sort of position.
I think I still struggle to articulate my thoughts well. Right. When it comes to there's a sort of philosophy and the one that I believe in acting, that it's like I don't want to tell you how to, like, I'm rehearsing you, Charlie, and a monologue, and I say, no, Charlie, don't do it like this, say it like this, and I say the line for you. That's like anathema to directors. I just don't believe that's the right way to go about it, because you've got to learn to find it yourself. So, but that's the hardest bit, to kind of like maneuver your way to getting something, articulating your thoughts in a way that they find it for themselves. And I sometimes stumble over that, and I guess on that, I find it hard to let go when I'm doing a show. Like, I find it hard. I'm always thinking about it. I'm always taking it home. I don't kind of wake up and I'm like, I cannot relax really around it, and I think I do get quite defensive. As much as I want to kind of improve those skills, like, I'll take it. If something does come back at me, I'll try not to punch it right back, but I find it hard to. I'm still working on that kind of side of things about not getting defensive when you mention something. I find that's hard, and I think you can see it in my face as well. I just kind of go red, and I start to kind of get a dry mouth, and I'm like, and I've got to just. I think maybe a bit of meditation or something might help with that. But I think, and I can get quite stubborn as well. Yeah. And I think a lot of the things I've talked about is what I aspire to be as well. So it's definitely a work in progress.
It is tough though, because I think, I'd sort of written something recently about that. If you could be a really poor coach or director, but if you've got a great set of actors or players, it can get you out of jail, kind of. But on the flip side of it, which is I think what you're saying, you could, maybe be a really talented coach or director, but it's very tough if you haven't quite got the people who can maybe do it at the same standard as you, or the same standard you expect. And I think, you wouldn't be the only person in that position to find that difficult, to say, articulate that and get that across, really. But it's not an easy thing to do.
No, it's not. And I think it's, because, 3 people might get it. 5 people are going, oh God, what's that? Walking off. And I find that quite. I don't know what to do with that still. I'm kind of like still struggling with that, and I've still, and I think that comes with experience as well.
No, definitely. Just going to move on, you. So two quick questions, and then we'll move on to the big one at the end. So, what would you say is the thing? I'll get the negative one out of the way. What would you say is the thing you least enjoy about being a director? So I know you've done acting, but just solely that sort of directing part. What was the bit you enjoy the least about?
At times it feels pretty lonely.
Yes. Yeah.
It feels that because you've got. I don't know. It just does. It just, you're sitting there, sort of. The responsibilities on me to sort of, pull all this together, And there's a kind of sort of, yeah, because you're not part of the acting company. You're not part of really. You're kind of sitting there on your own, kind of thing. And I know that's probably sounds unbelievably like childish, but it does. At times, you just like going, "Oh, this is like you miss the crack of the." But I kind of set that's rule for myself though. But I think it's a good bit. Sometimes, that I don't want to sort of mix with the actors too much and stuff because. So
yeah, I think you touched. Sorry, go on, Ewan. Sorry.
No, that's fine.
No, I was just going to say, I think that's something that, on a personal level, I found the hardest going into a more coaching position was missing out on that banter and the sort of thing around and being around there. It's you can. Well, I don't want to speak on your behalf, but I found you can never get the same thing. I suppose maybe you can go back to that. I can't in terms of a player, but you can't. Yeah. You can never quite recreate that, and that loneliness and that isolation is just until you go through that of having been going the other side of that. And I think you're completely right, and I completely agree with you. If you're in that position of leadership, you probably shouldn't be necessarily engaging in all of the dressing room or the whatever you want to call it sort of stuff. But it's so tough to go from that to then not being part of it. I sort of mourned that a bit, as silly as it sounds. I missed playing football for injury, but I missed more the banter 10 minutes before you go out to warm up, when so-and-so's got their shorts on back to front, that kind of stuff. Like, I just think, I know it's a football analogy, but I suppose it's the same sort of thing.
It's exactly the same thing. When you do, pre-show warm-up before you go on stage, and you're playing football or you're playing a bit of volleyball or you're just mucking about singing a song or, that, you're instead, I'm out there going, they better get this right this time.
Yeah, it's true, isn't it? No, completely.
And I think as well, I think dealing with personalities is, I know that's all part of it, but I find that it is quite tiring and it's quite frustrating, and it can be utterly, it can just be, I think exhausting really, because a lot of the time people are really, especially actors that have been doing it for a while, I think can really get to a point where you're like, I just wish they would just, and I got a bit braver as I kind of went on with speaking to them, but if you speak to them in a certain way, or then again, that's like dealing with personalities, dealing with one-to-one, especially dealing with an older, if I'm a young director dealing with an older actor, there's that kind of disparity in sort of going, well, who's this young upstart kind of talking to me, and I've been doing this for 30 years, and you go, I know, but I just want, you're an actor, I'm the director though, and that's when I kind of just want to go, just do it.
It is tough, isn't it? We'll move on to the penultimate question then. So what do you enjoy the most? So, I imagine there's tons in terms of, just from relating to that leadership position, there's loads of things that are enjoyable, but if you could only ping down one sort of thing that we'd say is the most enjoyable for you about...
I think when it all comes together, and sort of, when it all comes together, and whether it be in the rehearsal or a hope, and when it comes together as a show, because there's a huge, the technical side of it, going in and getting all the lights and the sound and everything together, that's just quite a difficult process. It's seeing it all come together from looking back 3 weeks or 4 weeks or whatever, and thinking, God, we were sitting around a table reading this, and now look at it, it's just like got lights, and it's got good actors, and it's got good story, and you just think, wow, I've done loads. And I think that journey is exciting, but actually seeing it come together is probably, I think, even more satisfying than being on stage for me personally.
Right.
And seeing the act and seeing the audience clap, because you can sit in with the audience and seeing them either laughing or chatting at the interval when they're getting their ice cream, and I was like just earwigging their conversations, and seeing the actors kind of just fly with it and just being confident with it, and just seeing something work that was in your head, and now it's come alive on stage. It gives you massive confidence, I think.
I think, particularly with your line of work, the progression I suppose you see is rapid, isn't it? From, like you say, 4 weeks to suddenly, maybe in sport it's a bit tougher because you've got other people trying to upset that. I suppose it's like your corner routines or whatever. But no, I think the progression you see is fascinating. And like you say, actually, that quite a lot of people I've spoken to sort of throughout the series have said that similar sort of thing, that when all those pieces of the jigsaw sort of fall in, and like you say, I suppose it's all the reward of that hard work, isn't it? All of those weeks of slogging through bits and bobs and going through those problems that we spoke about earlier on the episode and all of that. I think it all comes together. But you're going to move on to the. Oh, sorry, go on, mate.
Oh no! I'm just going to totally agree. Yeah, it's the score and the goal moment, isn't it? Because I always kind of thought, like, being an actor, being a footballer, acting. Some people don't like certain actors, some people do, but you can't, like with football, it's kind of like, you can't say Messi is a bad player because, it's kind of really subjective with acting. But with like football, I always thought like, it's like, look at that, the talent's there and you can see it because he's got a ball at his feet, a Harry Kane or whatever. But it's like, seeing something come together is the proof that it's, that it's worked and it's good, and I guess I've just got to rely on my own kind of what my own taste and what I think is good and not, and you think hopefully I've built that up over years that is pretty good.
Yeah, no, it's interesting because the episode will go out after yours, but I've spoken to an American football coach, and obviously the stop-start nature of their sport, he said sort of similar, because it's a lot easier for them to see their plans come together because you're only focusing on that one plan, whatever it is for that particular play for the next 10 seconds, and the feedback from that is instant, isn't it? Like you say, it's either worked or not worked, and I suppose it's like you're saying there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm just going to, so I hope I haven't built this up too much off air, Ewan, but I'm going to move on to the last question. This is one of the few that you haven't seen, but you could be as honest about this as you want to be. You don't have to, but if you can, it'd be great. But it's, if I was to speak to someone who's worked with you, what would they say that you are like to work with in terms of you being, I know as an actor, that's one way of perceiving you, but as a leader, if I was to ask someone who's worked under you, what do you think they would say?
Oh, I would think they would think I was maybe a wee bit obsessive.
You're the first person who's been completely honest. I've got to be honest. I've recorded loads of these, and you're the first person who's been completely honest about that. I really appreciate that. Sorry, carry on anyway.
Yeah, no, I think, a little bit obsessive, a little bit, can't kind of, won't let it go. Like a little bit, just, a little.
Tenacious?
Maybe, tenacious is quite a good thing, because I think having a laugh, hopefully, but actually when we have to work, we kind of work hard, and but I think maybe a little bit obsessive and a little bit tenacious, like it's kind of like a dog with a bone a little bit, and won't let something go really, and hopefully, that's probably, I think
that's an excellent quality, though. I think that's what, from my experience, a lot of players or performers in any sport or industry want. Really, they want someone who cares, and because I think that's where that tenacity comes from, isn't it? Is the place of caring and wanting it to be the best and wanting them to have and perform the best that they can, isn't it? I think it's not out of from you. It's not from ego or gloating or anything like that. I think it's just you want the very best for those people. And that's where that tenacity comes from, I suppose, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think it's because, of course, I want to prove myself. But I want to prove. I don't necessarily want to prove it to anyone. I think, apart from me, really, like I want to kind of think like, if I got what it takes to do this, and I have to bring the same amount of kind of work ethic that I did as an actor, but but I need to change that round a little bit. I need to adapt. I need to be adaptable. I need to, I need to be able to connect with people. I need to be able to communicate. I need to, try and but try and have fun at the same time, and try and make it, just try and make it enjoyable. You know, I always got into this like thinking, because I think that translates to the audience. If they can see that, they go, "Look, they're having a good time." You always hear that, you know.
No,
So,
I completely agree. Actually, sorry, go on, Karen. Sorry.
No, that was it really. I think it's a real privilege to be able to do something like this. I always think, and I just want to kind of wring out every single element of it, and I do that as an actor as well. I kind of want to. I don't want to look back and go, I should have really done that. I want to kind of go, right. I touched on every single corner of what I could do in my own capabilities there, and I don't regret it. I don't want to look back and regret something. So I just probably obsessively just, and that probably translates to maybe some of the actors and stuff. They go, it's a bit full on, but I do like to have a laugh as well. You know?
Yeah. No, I think that's an incredible quality to have, and an amazing balance. And you know, knowing you personally, I think that's, you know, an amazing sort of what makes you a brilliant person to know. You know, so I think it's something you should definitely embrace. And I think people listening to this, you know, could do worse than to sort of have that as part of their skill set. Really, that. So it just leaves me to say thank you so much, Ewan, for doing this. I appreciate it's an incredibly sunny day. I know we're still in lockdown, but you could have been out sort of doing, you know, what bits and bobs. So I really appreciate you taking the time to do that.
No, I've really enjoyed it because I've actually not thought about these things at all until you asked me, Charlie. So it's kind of food for thought a little bit, you know. And I'll kind of go away with some of these things and go, right, okay, interesting. I need to take that into, because it's not sometimes until you kind of, just actually kind of ask yourself those questions, you know.
Yeah, I think it is very thought provoking, isn't it? To sort of why you do what you do almost. Yeah,
because oftentimes I don't really think, you'll have a plan and stuff, but I don't really think about it. But I think it's good to actually sit back and especially just actually reflecting and going, was that a good outcome? You know?
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
No,
because I think I'm really sort of, maybe just go back in that, like I can, you know, that getting defensive. I can have a thought about how I'm going to deal with something, and then 5 minutes later, that thought will have, I would probably say it would have calmed down, and I can actually have a rational thought about it. So I think I've got a propensity to just kind of go, right, that's it, boom, and then, but actually the calmer thought 5 minutes later is actually the better thought. So that's something that I need to work on anyway.
Yeah, no. I think you're probably being a bit harsh on yourself there, but I completely understand where you're coming from with that. But normally at this point, I'd say where people could sort of keep in contact with you and watch you doing what you do, but obviously due to the unfortunate pandemic that's going on, that's a bit difficult. So what I'll do is, as and when we get released from all of this, I'll retrospectively, you know, maybe tweet out where you are and where people can stay and sort of watch you or watch your work and stuff like that.
Yeah.
In that sense, but yeah, I'll put obviously your sort of details on the show notes. But yeah, if people want to follow you, they can do in that sense. So, but yeah, you're a top man. I really appreciate you giving up the time to speak to us today.
Great, thanks, Charlie. Really appreciate it.